I wish you had never been born. I'm truly ashamed of you." My mom said this to my 11-year-old daughter, right in the middle of her 65th birthday party, in front of 35 guests. After those words, I took action after 38 years of silence. But I wasn't alone. The man who'd been by her side for 40 years also made his own decision. 2 years later, everyone who'd relied on comparisons to tear others down had to pay the price. To understand why things came to this, I would like to tell you the story from the beginning. But before I get into the details, thank you for choosing my story to listen to. Hello everyone, I'm Brennan, 38 years old, living in Dallas, Texas. This story began 2 years ago, the day I realized that family is something truly complex. Way more complicated than I ever thought. My daughter, Jovi, was 11 that year. She's a sensitive kid who loves drawing more than anything in the world. Jovi's chubby, dark-skinned, with curly hair that's always messy no matter how hard Darcy, my wife, tries to brush it out every morning. She's completely different from Tatum, my sister Margot's daughter. Tatum is slim, fair-skinned, with straight, silky hair, similar to that seen in shampoo commercials. And my mom, Lorraine, never hid her favoritism. Every time she saw Tatum, she'd hug her, kiss her, stroke her hair, and praise her endlessly. But what about Jovi? She only got a casual nod, sometimes not even direct eye contact. I saw it all. Darcy saw it all too, and she'd wanted to confront my mom many times. But I begged her to be patient, because I knew if she spoke up, my family would explode like a ticking time bomb. Maybe I was wrong thinking silence would keep the peace. Then one day, Jovi went to visit Grandpa Warren. My dad is a man of few words, but he loves his granddaughter in his own way. That day, he pulled out an old photo album to show her. In it was his and Grandma's wedding photo, the only one left because he'd hidden it carefully for decades. In the picture, Grandma at 23 looked completely different from the elegant woman Jovi knew. The moment she saw the photo, Jovi's eyes lit up, and she turned to Grandpa and exclaimed, "Grandpa! Grandma used to look just like me, round cheeks like mine, curly hair just like mine too." Seeing his granddaughter's excitement, my dad smiled warmly and said softly, "That's right. I really loved her beauty back then. I loved her for who she was, for her warm smile, for the way she looked at me like I was the only man in the world." After hearing this, an idea began to form in Jovi's mind. She didn't tell anyone, not even Grandpa. For the next 2 weeks, she secretly drew every night in her room. When Darcy asked what she was drawing, Jovi just smiled mysteriously and said it was a surprise gift for Grandma's birthday. We didn't think much of it. An 11-year-old wanting to make a handmade gift for Grandma. What could be sweeter? On my mom's 65th birthday, Jovi brought along her carefully framed drawing, excited to give it to Grandma. And no one could have guessed that this seemingly loving gift would trigger a bomb that had been buried for 60 years. I still remember that birthday party as if it were yesterday. It's burned into my mind like a milestone for the collapse of what I used to call family. The party was held at my sister Margot's house in Preston Hollow, because it was the most spacious and elegant in the family. She married a dentist named Douglas, who owns 3 clinics in the Dallas area. Ever since she got that pearl white Volvo XC90 parked in front of the garage, she never missed a chance to show off to relatives. To my mom, Margot was always the pride and joy, proof that she'd raised a successful daughter. And me, a software engineer with decent pay but no clinic or fancy car, I was just a dim shadow in her eyes. Approximately 35 guests attended that day, including relatives, friends, mom's neighbors, and some people from her card club. The house was filled with fresh flowers and a 3-tier cake. Everything was perfect down to the last detail, exactly the kind of party Margot wanted to show off. When it came to gift giving, Tatum stepped up first with a designer purse wrapped in an elegant box. She was only 10 but already knew how to pose, tilting her head with a bright smile as she gave the gift to Grandma. The moment she saw the purse, my mom beamed and hugged Tatum tight, then turned to everyone and said loudly, "Look at my granddaughter, beautiful, thoughtful, and so refined, too. I'm so proud of you." Margot sat nearby with a smug smile as she'd just been complimented. Tatum held her head high, glancing at Jovi with a look of disdain. Then it was my daughter's turn. Jovi stepped forward, hands trembling as she held up the framed drawing wrapped in sparkly paper. She'd kept it secret for 2 weeks, and this was the moment she'd been waiting for. Jovi's voice was small but full of excitement when she said to Grandma, "Grandma, I drew this for you. I hope you like it." My mom unwrapped the paper, and I saw her face go pale instantly. The drawing was an exact image of the old wedding photo. A 23-year-old woman with a round face, a nose that wasn't refined, and curly hair flowing freely. Completely different from the elegant Lorraine with her high nose and slim figure, whom the 35 guests in the room knew. Whispers started rising. My heart was also pounding with worry. Next to me, Darcy squeezed my hand tightly, as if she sensed something bad was about to happen. Too, I heard someone whisper, asking who this was. Someone chuckled mockingly. A few curious eyes looked at Grandma, then back at the drawing, like they were comparing. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became heavy, as someone had just sucked all the oxygen out. My mom was trembling. She stared at the drawing, then looked up at Jovi. Her voice was hoarse when she asked, "Who did you draw here?" Jovi thought this was her moment to be praised. Her eyes lit up, her voice clear and full of pride. "I drew you. Turns out you used to be round and cute just like me." Those innocent words echoed through the room. Someone burst out laughing. A few people covered their mouths, whispering to each other. The secret she'd hidden for 40 years was now exposed in front of all her friends, neighbors, and relatives, and I saw her like she'd been slapped by lightning. Her hand gripped the wine glass she was holding, her knuckles white. Then she tilted her head back and drained the glass in one gulp, like she was trying to put out a fire burning in her chest. But that fire didn't go out. It blazed even fiercer. She slammed the glass down on the table, then opened her mouth. Her voice was loud and clear, enough for the whole room to hear. "Honestly, I wish you had never been born. I'm truly ashamed of you. Look at yourself. Every time I introduce you to my friends, I want to disappear. Why can't you be like Tatum?" Right at that moment, my dad rushed over from the corner of the room, his hands covering Jovi's ears. But it was too late. She'd heard everything. Her eyes widened, and then tears began to flow. The drawing slipped from Grandma's hands, hitting the floor with a hollow sound. The entire room fell into deathly silence. Jovi stood there, unable to say a word, tears streaming down her cheeks. My dad still held his granddaughter tight, his face as white as if he'd just been stabbed. Margot covered her mouth, but I saw the corner of her lips curve up. Tatum held her head high, her eyes sparkling with the triumphant light number 10-year-old should have. Darcy shot up, her voice shaking with anger as she turned to my mom. "What did you just say to my daughter?" I stood up too, after 38 years of silence. I had patience, telling myself that keeping the peace was most important. It all ended in that moment. I looked straight into my mom's eyes and said, "Do you know what you just did? You just became exactly the person who destroyed you back then." My mom stood frozen, as if she'd been nailed to the spot. She looked at me like she couldn't believe her ears, her voice lost when she asked, What did you say?" Before I could say anything else, Jovi's sobbing echoed from behind. She was still clinging to Grandpa's shirt, her face flushed red, tears flowing nonstop. Now and then she'd look up at me with eyes that seemed to ask, "Dad, what did I do wrong?" That look tore my heart apart. I turned back to face my mom, my voice ice cold when I said, "Dad told me everything. About great-grandma. About how she treated you when you were little." The entire room seemed to freeze. The guests were dead silent, everyone's eyes fixed on my family as if they were watching a play. Behind me, someone whispered, "What the hell is happening?" Right then, Margot rushed over. Her face was red with anger, her voice harsh with every word. "Brennan, what the hell are you doing? This is Mom's birthday. If there's something wrong, talk about it at home. Don't make a scene here." I whipped around, looked straight at her face, and answered bluntly, "Make a scene? My daughter just got told by her grandmother in front of dozens of people that she doesn't deserve to be born. And you're saying I'm making a scene?" Then I stepped closer, lowering my voice just enough for her to hear. "Shut up, Margot, before I drag out your dirty past for Douglas and everyone here to hear." Margot's face went pale. She quickly glanced at Douglas, standing a few steps away, his face full of suspicion as he looked at his wife. Margot swallowed hard and backed away. I turned back to Mom. She stood there, still holding the empty wine glass, trembling like a leaf. I spoke slowly. You were the neglected daughter in your house, weren't you? Aunt Barbara was beautiful, spoiled rotten by great-grandma. And you? Compared every single day. Treated like garbage every time you stood next to your sister. Hearing this, my mom backed up until her back hit the chair. Her face was ghostly white. I continued, my voice unwavering. What did great-grandma use to say to you? Why can't you be pretty like your sister? I'm ashamed every time I take you out. Do you still remember that feeling? Instantly, my mom threw the glass hard onto the floor. Glass shattered everywhere, flying in all directions. A few nearby guests screamed and backed away. Her voice cracked as it echoed through the room. Shut up. You don't know anything. You have no right to talk about that. But I didn't back down. I looked straight into my mom's eyes and continued. I know everything. I know how much money you've spent and how many years it took to change yourself. All just to become the woman you thought would be loved. Tears began to flow down Mom's face, leaving black mascara trails in their wake. But I kept going. I pointed toward my daughter, trembling in Grandpa's arms, and asked Mom, you know what the most painful part is? That little girl loves you. She's proud to look like you. She thought that was the most beautiful thing in the world. My voice started shaking as I continued. But when you look at her, what do you see? You see an enemy. You see the person you hate most. And you dumped it all on an innocent 11-year-old. Hearing this, Jovi cried louder. She buried her face in Grandpa's chest, her shoulders shaking with each sob. My dad held her tight, his jaw clenched, his eyes red with rage. At this point, my mom shook her head frantically, her voice almost pleading. No, I was just being honest, so she'd fix herself, so she wouldn't have to suffer as I did. I cut her off immediately. Fix what? You want her to get plastic surgery? To starve herself until she's skin and bones? To live her whole life hating herself as you did? My mom stood there, eyes wild like a cornered animal. Then suddenly, she lunged at the party table, both hands sweeping the 3-tier cake onto the floor. Cake went flying everywhere, white frosting, sugar flowers, and the number 65 candles scattered across the tile floor. Margot screamed. Tatum was crying hysterically. Douglas pulled his wife and daughter away from him. Several guests ran toward the door. In the middle of that chaos, my mom screamed. I sacrificed my whole life for this family. I changed every little thing about myself so no one would be ashamed of me. And this is how you repay me? I didn't bother answering. I walked over to where the drawing was lying on the floor and bent down to pick it up. The frame was slightly scratched, and the paper wrinkled at the corner. But the image was still intact. A young woman with round cheeks, bright eyes, and a gentle smile. I smoothed out the drawing and went to Jovi. I crouched down to her eye level. Her face was red and blotchy, her eyes swollen, and her lips trembling. I took her ice-cold hand and said gently, Let's go home, sweetheart. Let's get out of here. My dad gently handed Jovi to Darcy. My wife held our daughter close, one hand stroking her hair as she cried silently. The three of us turned and headed for the door. However, Dad didn't follow immediately. He stopped in the middle of the room, turned to look straight at Mom. Everyone held their breath, all eyes on the man who'd barely spoken up in 40 years. Right then, my mom looked at Dad with eyes both panicked and pleading, her voice trembling as she asked, Warren, what are you doing? You're on my side, right? My dad was silent for a long time. Then he slowly spoke, his voice deep and steady. I've been silent for 40 years, Lorraine. Long enough to see how badly you treat our daughter-in-law. To see how you play favorites with the grandkids. I kept thinking you'd change. I waited. I hoped. He paused, taking a deep breath. Then my dad's voice choked as he continued. But today, you told my 11-year-old granddaughter you wish she were never born. Do you know who she looks like? She looks exactly like the woman I fell in love with at first sight. The woman you've tried to erase for the past 40 years. My dad looked at Mom one last time and said two simple words. I'm done. With that, he turned and walked out the door with us without looking back. The door slammed shut, leaving my mom standing alone in the messy room. On the drive home, no one said anything. Jovi sat curled up in the back seat, her head buried in Darcy's chest. My wife stroked her hair, whispering comfort. But Jovi didn't say anything. She just cried. Silent tears, her shoulders shaking in waves. Darcy gently asked her, "Do you want to tell Mom and Dad anything?" Jovi shook her head, burying her face deeper into Mom's shirt. I looked at her through the rearview mirror, my heart breaking. I wanted to say something, tried to comfort her, but my mouth felt locked shut. My dad sat in the front seat, also silent, his eyes staring out the window, occasionally bringing his hand up to wipe his face. That night, I thought we'd hit rock bottom. I thought everything would calm down with time. But I was so wrong. Jovi's wounds didn't stop at the birthday party. They were beginning. And what happened in the weeks that followed made me understand something terrifying. Sometimes just one sentence is enough to destroy a child from the inside out. The weeks after the party were hell. Not the loud kind with screaming or breaking things, but the silent type, the kind that eats you from the inside out. The first sign was that Jovi stopped drawing. Darcy told me she'd secretly thrown all her brushes in the trash. Every time she saw them, it reminded her of the painting. Then came the eating. At breakfast, Jovi would drink water and say she was full. Her teacher reported that she barely touched her lunchbox. Until one day, Darcy was cleaning her room and found food hidden in the trash. Darcy asked her why she wasn't eating. Jovi answered in a voice so calm it was chilling. "If I eat less, I'll be smaller. If I'm smaller, Grandma will love me." But the scariest part was what happened in front of the mirror. One night, I was walking past her room and saw the door cracked open. Jovi was standing in front of the mirror, pinching her cheeks, pinching her belly, squeezing her thighs. Then she whispered, "Too round. Nobody loves me. I wish I weren't here." My mom's words had become the voice inside my little girl's head. Then came the fateful night. Darcy heard strange noises from the upstairs bathroom. She called for Jovi but got no answer. A mother's instinct made her run upstairs immediately. The bathroom door wasn't locked. Darcy pushed it open, and her heart almost stopped. Jovi was sitting on the floor, surrounded by curly hair scattered everywhere. The hair she'd been growing since she was little was now patchy, uneven lengths all over. My wife tried to stay calm, her voice gentle as she asked, "Jovi, what are you doing, honey?" She turned around, her eyes empty as she answered, "I'm cutting my hair, Mom. Grandma said my hair was messy. If I cut it, she'll love me." Darcy called me. I was in a meeting, but dropped everything and drove home. When I saw my daughter with her butchered hair and lifeless eyes, my knees gave out. The next morning, we took Jovi to see a child psychologist. After 2 hours of evaluation, the doctor told us Jovi is having issues with how she sees herself. She needs long-term professional support. My daughter, only 11 years old, and she already needed therapy. After the appointment, I sat in the car, tears just flowing. Then I turned to my wife, my voice choking. "I'm sorry. I let this happen. I stayed silent for 38 years. This is my fault." Darcy squeezed my hand tight and said, "We can't change the past, but we can change the future." For Jovi. That night, I decided I would never stay silent again. Right when I was considering what to do next, Dad brought me a letter from Mom. I thought it was an apology. I was dead wrong. During the days after the party, I'd blocked all messages from Mom and my sister. I thought that was the final boundary. I thought she'd understand and think things through. But my mom isn't the type who admits she's wrong. Dad handed me the envelope, his eyes looking down like he didn't dare face me. I opened it and read, and the more I read, the more my hands shook with anger. The letter said, "Brennan, I don't understand why you and the whole family are treating me this way. I didn't do anything wrong. I only told the truth so the girl would know to fix herself. It's because I care about her. If Jovi would eat less and take proper care of herself, I would accept her. That's the only condition. I had to change back then to be loved. She has to do the same. I'm the victim here. The whole family ganged up on me on my own birthday. Do you know how much that hurt me?" I read it 3 times, nothing but blame and conditions. My mom was setting conditions for loving an 11-year-old granddaughter, as if love were some business transaction. Darcy read the letter, and her face paled with anger. My wife looked at me and said bluntly, "This is classic narcissism. Brennan, she'll never change, never admit she's wrong. In her head, she's always the victim." That night, after Jovi was asleep, I sat at my computer and did something I knew I couldn't take back. I posted on social media, where all our relatives, friends, and family neighbors could see. I told the whole story. I attached a photo of the letter, and I wrote, "This is conditional love. This is how my mother treats her own granddaughter. Never compare kids to each other. Never force a child to change their appearance to be loved. My daughter is seeing a therapist because of what her grandmother said. These are the consequences of toxicity." I hit post, and in just one night, everything changed. The post spread everywhere. Friends shared it. Relatives commented. Neighbors read it. My mom, the woman who always maintained a perfect image, suddenly became the toxic grandmother in everyone's eyes. But what surprised me most wasn't the community's reaction. A week after the post, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Dad standing there, carrying a small bag, his eyes red and puffy. I looked at him, my voice full of concern as I asked, "Dad, what's wrong?" My dad stood there silently for a long time, as if he were trying to find the words. Then he slowly spoke. "Son, I heard you took Jovi to see a doctor. I'm sorry. I haven't been able to sleep for days." I didn't know what to say, just stood there looking at him. My dad looked down at the bag in his hands, his voice getting smaller as he asked, "Can I stay here for a while? I want to be with Jovi. I want to make it up to her for your mom. Maybe this is the last thing I can do." Darcy stepped out next to me. She nodded and said to Dad, "Come inside. Dad, we have a spare room. You can stay as long as you want." From that day on, Dad stayed with us. He never mentioned my mom. He just stayed there, quietly present, as a way to make up for his years of silence. For the first time in her life, my mom was completely isolated, not just by friends, neighbors, and relatives, but also by the husband who'd been by her side for 40 years. You reap what you sow. My mom had been sowing for 60 years. Now she was starting to reap, but karma didn't stop with her. A year later, my phone rang at midnight. I looked at the screen, unknown number. I answered and heard my sister's voice, so panicked I barely recognized it. "Brennan, you have to help me. Tatum, she's exactly like Jovi was before." The midnight call from Margot didn't surprise me. Actually, I'd been waiting for it for a long time. Over the past year, my dad would occasionally tell me what was happening at Margot's house. Tatum was hitting puberty, and her body was starting to change in ways no one expected. The slim little girl from before was now getting rounder, her face puffy, acne breaking out everywhere. She inherited genes from her maternal grandmother's side, including a round build, rather than being tall. And my mom, who used to hug and kiss Tatum every time they met, who used to show off her granddaughter to all her friends, started looking at her with different eyes. Margot was starting to panic as well. She put Tatum on a strict diet, only allowed to eat salad and drink lemon water. She bought all kinds of pills, acne creams, and beauty books. But genes can't be changed. Tatum's body continued to do its own thing. And then she began to exhibit those familiar, terrifying signs, and stood in front of the mirror for hours, refusing to eat, and crying alone in her room. That's why Margot called me at midnight. Her voice panicked over the phone. "Brennan, help me. Tatum is exactly like Jovi was before. She says she hates herself. She won't eat anything. I don't know what to do." Hearing this, I felt empty. Taking a deep breath, I answered straight. "You know why, don't you, Margot? Because you and Mom taught her that a person's worth is based on appearance. You praised her when she was thin. You showed her off when she was pretty. Now she believes that. And when she doesn't meet those standards anymore, she thinks she's worthless." The other end went silent. I heard Margot crying. I continued, my voice softening a bit. "Take Tatum to see a specialist. And you should go too. Not because there's something wrong with you, but because both you and Mom are repeating a cycle that none of us in this family has been able to break free from. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But sometimes karma isn't punishment. Karma is a lesson, a chance to look back." Meanwhile, at my house, Jovi was slowly recovering. Not a straight line. Some good days, some bad days. But at least she was finding herself again. Darcy enrolled her in swimming and yoga classes, not to change her appearance, but to help her learn to love her body. Gradually, she started eating normally again. And my dad became the quiet shadow beside Jovi. Every morning, he'd drive her to school. Every afternoon, he'd pick her up, stopping at the familiar ice cream shop on Greenville Avenue. Weekends, he'd take her on picnics at White Rock Lake. On Jovi's 12th birthday, he baked a cake himself, which was burnt on one corner, but she ate every bit because Grandpa had made it. Then one day, Jovi picked up her paintbrush again. The first painting after almost a year was a portrait of Grandpa. He was sitting in the armchair in the living room, eyes squinting from smiling, holding a chess piece. When she gave him the painting, my dad looked at it for a long time and then burst into tears. He didn't say anything, just held his granddaughter tight. The man who once managed a shoe factory with nearly 100 workers sat there crying over a painting by his 12-year-old granddaughter. Sometimes the most minor things have the most incredible healing power. A few months after Margot's call, what I had hoped wouldn't happen suddenly occurred. My mom showed up at my front door. She came with Margot and Tatum. She wanted to see Jovi. But Jovi was 13 now. She was no longer the child who desperately wanted her grandmother's love. That afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened it to see Mom standing there. She'd aged so much since I last saw her. Her hair was almost entirely gray, her back slightly hunched, her face gaunt with deeper wrinkles. 2 years without seeing her, and she looked like she'd aged a decade. Standing next to her were Margot and Tatum. I looked at the little girl, and my heart ached. Darcy heard the noise and came out to stand next to me. She didn't invite them in. My mom looked at me, her voice trembling as she spoke. "Brennan, I came to apologize. I was wrong. Let me see Jovi." I stood still, didn't move. Then I asked bluntly, "What exactly were you wrong about? Be specific." My mom lowered her head, her voice choking. "I said terrible things to her. I said I was ashamed of her. I said I wished she weren't in this world. I was wrong." I looked straight into Mom's eyes and replied, "Do you know why you said those things? Because Jovi drew exactly the person you've been trying to erase for 40 years. You hated the painting because you hate yourself. And you took it all out on your granddaughter because she's living proof that you can't escape your past." My mom's tears flowed. She stammered, I didn't realize." I continued, my voice unwavering. "What's the difference between you and me? I chose to end the cycle. You chose to continue it." Right then, Jovi stepped out from behind us. She was taller now, more confident. Her hair was still curly and wild, but the features of a young woman were starting to emerge. In her hands was the painting from 2 years ago. My mom looked at Jovi, tears streaming as she said, "Jovi, you're so grown up. I'm sorry." Jovi stood there, her face calm. She held up the painting and asked her in a voice without a trace of trembling, "Do you remember this painting?" My mom nodded, her voice choking. "I remember. I'm sorry." Jovi looked at the painting for a long time. Then, she tore it up slowly. My mom screamed, her voice panicked. "No, don't." The pieces of paper fluttered to the ground. My mom collapsed to her knees, trembling as she picked up each piece, tears falling from her eyes. Jovi looked down at her, her voice strangely calm. "The granddaughter who drew this painting doesn't exist anymore, Grandma. She left on your birthday 2 years ago. You wished I weren't in this world. Fine. That little girl who loved you unconditionally is gone now." My mom looked up, her eyes red and pleading. "Please, forgive me." Jovi took a deep breath and replied, "I don't hate you. I feel sorry for you. You carry wounds your whole life that you refuse to heal, and you pass that pain to me. But the cycle stops here. Stops with me." Then Jovi turned to Tatum. She was standing huddled behind her mom, eyes red and puffy, tears streaming. Jovi walked over, her voice softening as she said to Tatum, "You're beautiful in your own way, Tatum. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And if you need someone to talk to, please don't hesitate to call me. I understand that feeling." Tatum sobbed and nodded. For the first time, she looked at Jovi not with the eyes she used to have, but with the eyes of someone who shared the same struggle. Right then, my dad stepped out from inside the house. He walked slowly to where Mom was kneeling on the ground. He bent down, picking up each scattered piece of the painting. Then he helped Mom stand up and held her close. He turned to look at me, his eyes calm but holding something profound. Then he turned to Tatum, reached out to pat her head, and said gently, "I once loved someone just like you are now, and I still love her after 40 years. You're beautiful, sweetheart." Tatum choked up, tears flowing. My dad hugged Mom, and the two of them slowly turned and walked away. Margot and Tatum quietly followed behind. I stood there, watching them disappear down the street. He'd been by Jovi's side for a whole year, rebuilding his granddaughter's broken spirit piece by piece. Now that the mission was complete, and he chose to return to the woman he'd loved for 40 years, no matter how many unhealed wounds she carried. Darcy took Jovi's hand and pulled her close. I hugged them both. No one said anything. For the first time in 2 years, I felt our little family had absolute peace. After that meeting, we had a life that wasn't complete in members, but it was the most peaceful life our little family had ever had. Jovi started taking professional art classes at an art center in Dallas. Her dream is to become an artist. Maybe what she went through didn't kill her passion, but only made it stronger in a different way. At the end of last year, Jovi submitted a painting to the Texas Young Artists exhibition. The painting was a portrait of Grandpa Warren, the man who chose to stand by his granddaughter when the whole world turned away. The painting didn't win first place, but it was selected for display. To me, that was the most significant victory. Jovi still has difficult days, but she's learned to live with her scars without letting them define her. My mom still sends letters every month. Jovi never opens them. She told me that maybe someday she'll read them, but not now. I respect her decision. Margot took Tatum to see a specialist. She's gradually recovering, just like Jovi did before. Sometimes the two girls text each other. No more comparing. Just two kids who were once hurt trying to heal together. My dad still visits every week. He brings cookies, plays chess with Jovi, and tells stories from his past. He and Mom still live together, but their relationship has changed. Maybe that's his way of choosing to love her, despite all her flaws. And my wife and I, we're raising our daughter every day with one goal. Someday, Jovi will become a mother who knows how to love her children unconditionally. A woman who won't repeat the painful cycle of the generation before. People say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but every apple has the right to roll farther away, find new soil, and become a completely different tree. Jovi chose to do that, and I'm incredibly proud of her. If my story can leave something behind, I hope it's these 3 things. 1. Never compare your kids to each other, because every child deserves unconditional love. 2. If someone hurts your child, speak up, because silence is complicity. And 3. Scars don't make you ugly. Scars prove you survived and became stronger. Before I close this lesson-filled story, I want to ask you, if you were in my daughter's position, would you choose to forgive? Could you share your thoughts in the comments below? If the story touched you, please hit like and subscribe to support me. Thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the following stories.